You are now listening to Handsome Read. Well, Liana, I have a couple apologies to make. Now, as you well know, by now, our second season started off in France, right? And let me tell you, if you guys couldn't tell, French is not my first, second, third, or maybe even my fourth language. My apologies in advance to my French language lovers, former teachers, and the rest of the French community. I promise you that if you guys can see past my failed French accent, the story is good. Chef's kiss. Wait, chef's kiss is Italian, right? Anyhow, greetings everyone and welcome back. I welcome you to pour a glass of something festive, kick off those shoes, light an incense, and allow me to open a portal back into the Army of Sin universe with today's episode titled Family Night. This episode remains set in the French countryside village of �絵𝐿. The last traces of the burning orb had just dipped below the line of the horizon, taking with it the need for shaded and squinted eyes. All that remained now were layers of clouds disappearing further out as the eye could see, their underbellies stained bright pink. The view of the Mediterranean below was indeed breathtaking. Yachts littered the coast, some returning from a romantic day at sea, while others were only just setting out, occupants having their own ideas for a romantic evening. Alas, some unlucky sea mammal was about to snack on a carelessly tossed pair of underwear. The twins, Marielle and Lila, were currently putting the finishing touches to the outdoor lanterns as more guests made their way to the outdoor eating area. Audible sighs from guests drew knowing smiles from both sisters as yet another customer fell under the spell of a Mediterranean sunset. A vacationing couple unconsciously tightened their grip on each other. The group of 6 friends took their seat on the dark brown of the picnic table, while off to the side, near the vines, old lovers sat facing each other, wine glasses clinking together in a toast. "How are we looking this evening?" The melodic French of Madame Gigi's question. "Bonjour, madame," Marielle responded in her native French, eyes becoming impossibly brighter as they fell upon her employer. "All our guests are happy," the waitress responded in French. "This is all because of the magic you, Lila, and Madame Maxine bring each and every day. Merci beaucoup." Gigi ended with a hug. "You are leaving now?" "Oui," Gigi responded. "It is my turn to cook dinner." "Give the family my regards." Marielle bid farewell with a hug and a kiss on each cheek before offering water to some of the seated guests. After having said farewells to each member of the kitchen and restaurant staff, Gigi set her feet on a course for her home, confident in Chef's abilities to run things in her absence. Light-hearted, her smile grew broader as she thought about the pair that awaited her at home. One of the hidden beauties in the town of 𝐵𝐿 was in the opportunity to experience taking the scenic route, no matter which path one chose. Tonight, Gigi walked bare feet along the uneven stones of her small town, nodding in greeting at the passers-by she encountered along the way. 15 minutes of leisurely walking later brought her near the outskirts of the town, facing a low fence that topped out at about waist height. Pulling the squeaky latch, a sound which pealed in the quiet of the evening, she granted herself entry into the yard. A tiny shout filled the night quickly after she closed the latch behind her. Smiling, Gigi turned in time to lock eyes on the pale legs of her 7-year-old as he darted towards where she stood in wait. The force of his impact jarred her slightly, a minimal discomfort quickly smothered by the joy that poured from her lips as both mother and son greeted each other. Bonsoir, ma fille, Gigi greeted, pressing a kiss into the gold locks of his hair. Bonsoir, Mama, the little boy replied into the folds of her clothes. Holding his cheeks in slender hands, she peppered his face with small kisses, even as he giggled and snorted in joy. My little piglet, she teased, taking his hand in her own before leading them into the house. Closing the door behind her, Gigi was just straightening when she found herself pulled against a very warm, very familiar mass. Firm lips whispered near her left ear as the arm around her waist held her secure. I missed you, Gigi. Gigi closed her eyes as she felt her husband's words travel from her ear to her curling toes before responding. And I you, Mr. Saunders. Turning to face him, she threw her arms over his shoulders and around his neck, cupping the sides of his face as they shared a kiss that left them both breathless, with their foreheads pressed against each other. A low growl interrupted the silence they shared. Gigi raised an eyebrow, even as she brought her hand, which came away wet, closer to her face. Her husband looked at her sheepishly from beneath his curling lashes. Didn't too long finish cleaning up. A paint fight again? Oui, our son is clean though. Waiting on me to get yourself cleaned up, perhaps? Another growl came, this one louder. How about we get some food into your system first, though? The very happily married woman of 8 years asked. D'accord, her husband Salim replied, placing a kiss upon his wife's forehead before ushering them into the kitchen. Later that night found Gigi and Salim curled around each other, her head rising and falling against his chest as he breathed, one of his fingers drawing lazy patterns between her shoulder blades. As she relaxed her mind from its mental preparation of the coming business day, she smiled at the flapping sound that reached their ears from the attic above. Salim stiffened slightly at the sound. Though now retired, his years of experience in the Israeli armed forces had his body tensing instinctively. Gigi stilled him with a gentle touch, sitting up on the bed as the lamp's light caught the small beads of sweat that ran along her spine. It's only Fred, she whispered, shrugging into her nightgown, inadvertently cutting off Salim's viewing pleasure. She came to where he lay among the bedsheets and pressed a kiss to his cheek before making her way down to the kitchen for the birds' dinner. Salim watched her pad on bare feet, breasts free of the confines of a bra, no doubt shifting the front of her gown the same way that her slim backside did. Closing his eyes until she returned to bed, his last thought before drifting off into a shallow sleep was how weird it was to name a bird Fred. End of episode. Now, before we go there, friends, let me just give you guys a teaser. For next week's episode, we will be switching scenes. To whom? To where? To why? All of these questions will be answered at our next appointed time. Right here on Handsome Reads. Bring a friend next time. And as always, continue to take good care of yourself. Love and light.